My guest on the Ohio AgNet, a person that needs no introduction, it's Kolesen McCoy. He is the National FFA president. Kolesen, first of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're right in the middle of recording the National FFA Convention. Talk to me first about how that's going.
It's going well. I've never been to Fort Worth here in Texas, but they greeted us with cattle running down the streets and RFD offices and a beautiful studio and a location for our hotel. Everything is just in a perfect location for us to be able to put on a wonderful convention at the end of this month. It's coming quick, just 2 weeks, I think now.
Very good. Well, we're going to get back to convention at the kind of the end of this, but I want to take everyone kind of back to the beginning of Kolesen McCoy's FFA experience. You were Global Impact STEM Academies in their first classes of FFA members. I know you hold their first American FFA degree. I didn't fact check this, but I'm sure their first state officer, state president, and I'm sure their first national officer. Talk about what it's like to represent such a unique school and chapter at this scale.
Well, it's made me very grateful. That's for sure. A lot of my experiences going into the program, it was a leap of faith initially. And I think throughout that entire process, we committed ourselves to saying, we don't know exactly how we're going to do this, but we're going to do it. And hopefully we can learn something beneficial and positive from it. And at the end of the day, I think we were better for it. We were always ones to take chances, and coming from such a young program, it was exciting a lot of the days to just take on something so new and take on something so different. Even myself individually being a first generation FFA member in my family, I didn't know a lot about the organization. So to walk into such a new program, and yet still have such encouraging voices and wise, discerning advisors in my life and teachers and mentors that lifted me up along the way, made it for a very special experience. And I think that's ultimately what got me to pursue leadership at the state level, just to have the confidence and desire to pursue something like that. But also to say, is national office a reality? Is that something that I can also pursue? And I think I'm certainly the person I am today, largely due in part to my experiences going through that program.
Kolesen, talk about being national president kind of pre-pandemic for a second, when it's a typical year and life's typical, which you got a little taste of. What's it like to be National FFA president?
Well, it's tough to put a stake on normal. My year as a national officer, but also just as a person, rarely in my life have I had a normal year. But I think that's what I love about it. I love the spontaneity and I love the challenge of new and different things. I think before, I guess pre-COVID, pre-quarantine time, we were really in the thick of gearing up to travel quite a bit. Of course, we still had an FFA week. I was able to go to the U.S. Virgin Islands. I had plans to go to Puerto Rico. Went to RFD TV studio out there in Nashville. Of course, our one international trip during the year we were able to complete in Japan. And that was, each experience that we had was very meaningful to me. And I was very grateful for the time that I had. Experience Week, we were able to go back to Ohio. So it was kind of a home tour in a way. But it was something that I think filled my bucket enough to prepare my heart and prepare my mind and prepare my perspective upon leadership, and just going into that, having the right mindset before everything went kind of crazy. So it was certainly a great start to the year. It was tough at some points, but I think it was still good overall.
You mentioned your experiences traveling to the Virgin Islands. You were in Japan for a while. Talk about what that's like and how FFA is perceived both here domestically in the Virgin Islands and then abroad in Japan.
What makes FFA so beautiful is how dynamic we are as an organization. It's so grassroots, and that's something that we hear often, but hopefully I can paint a good picture of it. The chapter, in middle of nowhere, Ohio, has their own perspective and values that they put upon FFA and what it looks like for their students, what competitions they choose to involve themselves in. And that's their world, right? And there's this sense of magic to that experience as an FFA member that we all know. And in the same way, that can look worlds different if you go down to the U.S. Virgin Islands. They might not compete in any of the same competitions we do. They might not teach any of the same classes that we teach. But still, there is that sense of magic to their experience as an FFA member. And I think that's what makes our organization so unique and so beautiful, is that we can come from such different backgrounds. We can come from such different experiences, and we have different needs. that speak to our culture and what we grow up around. But still, there is a way that you can bring a great experience to young minds in agriculture and preparing them for life. And that's ultimately what we do in FFA, right? We prepare students, yes, for hopefully fields in agriculture, but more than just have them go through great competitions and have them learn in a classroom. We're preparing students for life and what comes next. And I think that's just a beautiful view here domestically. Going beyond the states, we have a sister organization. So few people might know this, but there is the Future Farmers of Japan. There's quite a few future farmer organizations around the world. And the Future Farmers of Japan, we have had a long-standing relationship since, I believe, the early 40s, late 30s. And being able to travel internationally, you see the same personalities in a classroom overseas as you do here. And I think that's just, it's cool to see the unity that our organization's mission is shared very closely. Their desire is to build up students in agricultural education. And we do that, of course, a little bit different, very different agricultural techniques, which was fun to learn about when we were over in Japan. But at the end of the day, you got the same personalities in the classroom, and you have students that are passionate about agriculture and they care about growing themselves as individuals. And I think it makes for a great reality check for us as members in FFA to think, hey, you know what? We're so dynamic, we're so different, but that's what makes us so unique, and that's what makes this organization great.
Kolesen, talk about the National FFA Officers, your team. What's it like to serve FFA members with this group of people?
I'm very fortunate, very lucky with the group of people that I've been able to serve with over this past year. I look back to when we were first elected, and I just remember, hearing all their names go up. I was the last one to be announced, and I'm like, wow, these people are so different. Every single one of us are so different. But as we began to take on more things as a team, we realized at the core, we were very similar. Though we handle things differently and we approach leadership a little bit differently, I think there's a novelty to it. And I think that there's a great benefit to it when it comes to representing such a dynamic group of students. And I cannot be more grateful to have such selfless and student-minded people to serve alongside with. I think it would make for a tough year if the people I served alongside with were in it for themselves. And I've never doubted once that these people that I'm with are here for students. And that's certainly encouraging.
Kolesen, obviously the classroom component is a major piece of agricultural education, and students across the country weren't in classrooms last spring, and some still aren't. What does Ag Ed and FFA look like in the middle of a global pandemic when everything's virtual?
So I was just discussing this with the chapter out in Oregon, and we talked to how this season that we've been through as an organization has put us 10 years in the future in the ways that we engage students on a virtual platform. We would never be doing this stuff that we're doing now if it wasn't for the year that we've had. So there is, without a doubt in my mind, lots of positive things that have come out of it. The way that we are just thinking, we have downtime as a national officer some days, and why not take that time to put out on our social media a virtual workshop offered to literally all students, and the kind of equity that brings to our now 760,000 plus members around all 50 states, of course the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, is unparalleled. Now you eliminate the barriers of finances, you eliminate the barriers of travel and distance. We are able to bring a meaningful and good experience directly to students where they are, instead of them having to meet us. And I think that's just been so humbling as an organization, and as agricultural education, opening up our minds and eyes to the idea of serving students in different capacities. And it doesn't always have to be in person. And it makes you ask the questions of, we have this program, can we still deliver this program in a way that is meaningful to students through a virtual program too, so that we are able to connect with even more members than we would have ever been able to. And I think at the end of the day, reminding that every person in agricultural education has a place in FFA and the Blue Jackets. And I think that is certainly something that we have learned from this entire road trip that we've been on over the year.
Kolesen, usually National FFA officers spend a lot of time on the road. You mentioned social media. How are National FFA officers connecting with students and chapters across the country?
A couple ways that we've been able to do it is kind of take our personality and bring it to life through social media. A lot of us picked up on a couple projects over the summer just to highlight students. And something that I was always passionate about myself was to share the good news that FFA members are experiencing in their daily life. I was blown away at the response our student membership had over the summer. And where we could have kind of taken a step back or been uncertain, I think with just a little bit of guidance, FFA members were quick to pick up the torch, to overcome that adversity, and make it something special for other people in their community. And social media for us has just been a way to share live conversations with FFA members, to do live interviews, kind of similar to this here. And it's also been a way for us to just hear student perspective and give them the open mic and airtime to share what's most important to them as we go into meetings with the National FFA Board of Directors, or hear the stories of FFA members because we were able to hold a virtual workshop with them. And we facilitated conversation. We can take the stories that we have there and bring it to our corporate supporters and sponsors and say, hey, your decision to invest into these young minds in agriculture, this is what's happening. These are the fruits of your labor. And I think that's been a lot of the way that we have seen firsthand social media and technology come to play for us as an officer team.
You spoke at the Ohio FFA celebration of students early on in all of this. How have state associations adapted their state conventions over the summer and worked through those pieces to continue to connect with students?
Well, much like a rural chapter in Ohio would approach their chapter banquet differently than a chapter banquet in the Virgin Islands, I think our state associations were very similar. Some of them decided to partner with other organizations to bring to life their convention through a virtual platform. So whether that was on Facebook, broadcasting it live, or on other social media platforms, many of them still took this as a time to give students even more recognition than they would have been able to. And I think that's where state officers really took up the challenge of, how can we connect with students? How can we give them a space on our stage instead of us? And I think it was just a great show of humility of our state officers and state associations across the board, but still tailoring it to the state association's need, because where we have our smaller states who can bring a lot of that energy to life with their group, it might take a little bit more work for a larger state too. And I think that everyone responded to the specific needs of their state association really well. And Ohio was certainly no exception.
There are 38 FFA members running for National FFA office, including our Ohio's own Bailey Eberhardt. What's your involvement in that process now that you're on this metaphorical side of the table?
Support, love, and encouragement, to put it simply. I am not at all, as a team, we're not engaged in the actual process itself, but going through it, from my experience, it's a rigorous and tough one. And it is such a great experience to learn about yourself and really why you want to be a part of this organization and why you desire to serve at the highest level that you can. But for us, it's kind of nice to take a step back from interviewing and just support the people who are going through this experience and doing that in any way that we can. We decorated the cubes back at the FFA Center for our nominating committee who's flying into Indianapolis here in the next week, I believe, and make sure that they're confident and comfortable, that they feel like they can keep this process equitable over a virtual platform. And in the same way, make sure that we are constantly there for our national officer candidates. We actually just held a live webinar yesterday for all of our candidates to answer any and all questions that they had about the process, that they had about what does it really look like to be a national officer, and hopefully share some positive and uplifting words along the way.
This video will come out the day that National FFA Convention begins. Of course, we're recording this early. Can you give us a peek around the corner as what we can expect from the rest of National FFA Convention week? But also give us the details about how folks can watch it. Maybe they don't have a connection to an FFA chapter, but still want to watch. How can they do that?
Well, it will be broadcasted live to anyone who would like to tune in October 27th through the 29th. It will be on RFD TV and the Cowboy channel. So those are our two main platforms for broadcasting it live. Our landing page, convention.ffa.org, has plenty of resources if you're looking for other ways to be able to tune in. And just to kind of put this into perspective too, if you're an advisor and you're listening in, or you are a grandparent, or parent, just any supporter of an FFA member, this is the first time ever that every single one of our members has a chance to experience the same convention as every other one. Sometimes we have the barrier and challenge of, can we make it to Indianapolis, Indiana every year? But this is the first time where everyone can have the same experience. And I really challenge and I really encourage everyone to spend as much time enjoying this virtual celebration that we're going to be having together, because it's going to be unique and it's going to be unlike any other. And people will look back on the 2020 93rd National FFA Convention and Expo and say, man, that was one to remember. So don't ever lose sight that we're making history this year. And that's something that we're all going to be able to have a part of. We'll have the FFA Blue Room, and we'll still be able to hear from leading voices in research and technology. We have the 13th administrator of NASA. How many organizations can say that we have NASA speaking at our convention? It's exciting. And there's so many really cool and cool minds and perspectives that we're bringing into this agricultural discussion. And FFA members will be able to engage directly with the National FFA officer team. Not every day that you can do that, but we'll have live chats where students can send in questions to the national officers and I. And in that same regard, what makes the convention experience so beautiful and so cool is that you get to meet other FFA members from all around the country. And we'll be opening up live Zoom rooms where your chapter or you as an individual can hop into these rooms and you can share conversation with someone across the country. It's going to be something special and something to remember. And I really encourage everyone, if you're not going to just be watching it live through RFD TV or the Cowboy Channel, register now on FFA.org, convention.ffa.org, and you can get full access to all of the behind the scenes things and all of the insider knowledge and experiences that you can at National Convention.
Kolesen, I'm sure you're not going to tell me what the content of this next question is going to be, but one of the all-important pieces is the retiring address. So can you tell us when your retiring address will be?
Yes, I would be happy to. It's during the fourth general session during National Convention. And I'm excited for hopefully everyone that can tune in and listen to that. I will share that the conversation that we will be sharing together is going to be surrounded by humility. One of the greatest things that I think I've picked up on over this tenure as a National FFA officer is to hold the things that I love the most with an open hand. And, the times where we maybe feel like we lost or missed out on a lot of things, it was never ours to lose. And it's just something that has come along the way that we were very blessed and gifted to be able to experience. And I've learned so much from this year, and I'm very grateful. And I've had probably the most humbling 6 years of my life in this organization from when I first started. And I'm excited to share a little bit more of that perspective come convention.
Kolesen, one final question, and this is a big one. Will the next National FFA president slip as they're running on stage?
So, if they do, hats off to them. They can join the club. For the longest time, I never anticipated it would happen. But this time around, I really can't give any insight on this one, although I would really love to. We have something special planned for our next national officer team, something that can really give them the spotlight and time that they deserve after going through such a intentional process and ultimately being the next 6 leaders of our organization. So we have something exciting planned for them that I'm looking forward for all of our members to be able to share in.
Very good. Kolesen McCoy, my guest, National FFA President in advance of the National FFA Convention. Kolesen, as always, thanks for giving us just a few minutes of your time. This National FFA Convention coverage brought to you by Wilmington College.
We are Wilmington College,
where agricultural experience and learning meet.
The leadership and personal development skills I learned in FFA have allowed me to excel in the classroom and in our campus community.
Out of 4-year institutions, Wilmington College provides our students with the most hands-on experience starting year 1 at the academic farm.
At Wilmington College, the farm is our lab.
Because of Wilmington College, I have grown as a person, professional, and leader.
I've been able to further my education as a first-generation college student.
We are Wilmington College. Hands-on learning, hands-on living.